Yo, what's going on guys, XpertFusion here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys a review for Black Ops Cold War Zombies Outbreak. So I was going to wait a little longer to do a review until I played it more, but I played a decent amount last night, and I feel like I've done everything there is to do in the game, and I even looked up some YouTube videos and such to really see, is there some hidden stuff that maybe I didn't find? No, not really. I pretty much did everything there is to do, therefore I feel like I have an opinion on the mode now that I can share with you guys. And we've only been playing for about a day now, so my opinion could definitely change on it, but honestly, I don't think it will. I do also want to say that I expect Outbreak to have a lot of content added in the future, and I think that's the biggest positive to Outbreak, is that the future of it is sounding great. But this review is only focusing on what we currently have. I do expect there to be some original maps added. I wouldn't even be surprised if we see Alcatraz added from Warzone, or I guess you call it Rebirth Island in Warzone. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of cool stuff. But from what we currently have, let's just talk about the good and the bad of Outbreak. So starting off with the good, it's definitely a really good use of their assets. And what I mean by this is I really appreciate it when game developers use maps, guns, items, or whatever it may be in multiple modes, because you have them there. Why not use them for multiple places? Now, I do want unique stuff as well. It should never be a replacement for unique stuff. You know, like let's say a game's gonna have 5 zombies maps in it. It should never be like, okay, let's have 3 of the maps be new and 2 of them be old. No, if you're planning to have 5 maps, have 5 new maps, and then on top of that, give us some, maps that maybe take place within the multiplayer. It should never replace the main stuff, but this isn't replacing anything. This isn't taking up what was supposed to be DLC 2. This is literally just releasing in between DLC 1 and DLC 2, so it's not taking away from any of the content we're going to get. At least we don't think it will. If they decide to cut short on the amount of DLC maps we get for like the main maps, then I'll be disappointed, but it doesn't seem like we will. This seems to be its own completely separate thing, which makes it a lot better. We have to judge Outbreak very differently than how we judge maps like D Machine and Firebase C. Those maps I expect a lot more from. My expectations are like the Der Eisendrache or 9 style expectations. Like, I want them to be as quality as those maps, but Outbreak, I don't have expectations for. I don't expect it to be anything because I didn't even expect to get this in the first place, so it's automatically gonna get at least some praise just for being something that I didn't even expect to have in the first place. And I love it. It's very different from what we're used to, this open world feel. I don't think it's nearly as innovative and crazy as some people are making it out to be, because this isn't really that far-fetched of an idea. For zombies, yes it is, but not for, video games as a whole. It's definitely not that far-fetched. I'm glad they did it though. I definitely applaud them for doing it, and I would love to see more of this in the future. Vehicles and zombies is something I've wanted to use forever now. I mean, I've been saying this Transit remake better have a drivable bus. That would be awesome. There's a lot you can do with vehicles in a zombies mode. I mean, think about games like, I don't know, Dying Light or Dead Rising 3, games that obviously Dying Light only had vehicles in the DLC, but you know what I mean. Having, stuff like this that we've seen in other games is awesome for zombies, because zombies has been something that I've always enjoyed way more than anything else, but I've always wanted to see some of those aspects from those open world zombies games added into Call of Duty Zombies, and now that we're finally getting it is such a breath of fresh air. It's also a really good place to bring all of the content from the game into one specific place. Like, we see all the bosses from D Machine and Firebase C, as well as all the wonder weapons. Not all of them really, because there's no upgrades for the Die Shockwave. I kind of wish they did have all the upgrades, unless they haven't found it yet. Maybe there is, or maybe they'll be added with the Easter egg in Season 3. But again, I'm judging it how it currently is, therefore it would be nice if we had that as well. But it's still really cool seeing all the stuff from these 2 maps all together in one map, and the new stuff they added as well, which they didn't add a lot of new stuff, but in terms of bosses, they did add some new bosses. There's the Tempest as well as the Panzers. Awesome bosses. I mean, that's one of the things that I feel like Treyarch Zombies specifically has been doing really good with these past couple years. Their boss zombies have been incredible. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the older boss zombies from like Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 times, like the space monkeys on Ascension. I don't like at all. I don't like the astronauts on Moon. I hate the denizens in Transit. So they definitely have gone much better when it comes to making bosses, and specifically in Cold War, I've enjoyed pretty much all of the bosses. So Panzers, really cool. Tempests, really cool. They're really deadly as well. I really like how they work and how they can just destroy your vehicles and completely disable them. So you have to get out and you have to fight them yourself, and they teleport all over the place. They're fun bosses to go against, I have to say. And the Panzer, of course, is a Panzer. He's pretty cool. And some of the objectives can be pretty fun. Like, I do think the lockdown defense stages are pretty fun usually. I think they could be a little bit more tricky maybe, but how they are, they're decent. You know, especially in the later rounds, they get a lot more fun. In the early rounds, I think most of the objectives kind of suck because they're just way too easy. But once you get to like the round 4, 5, 6, they start to become a little bit more tricky, and I do like them. I like the escort one. I think most of them are fine. I don't have really a big problem with any of the objectives. I think they all flow completely perfectly. I wish a few of them were maybe a little bit trickier. And when we get into the bad, we're going to talk about some issues I have with the objectives and the fact that there's not enough of them. They get very repetitive really quickly because there's not that many available. And honestly, that's all I gotta say for the good. You guys might be calling me negative because I'm gonna be talking about a lot of negatives, but hear me out here. The negatives are not necessarily things that suck or that are terrible, ruin the mode. They're just things I would like to be changed. And a lot of these things can be changed, which is a good thing. It's a good sign if these issues are things that can be fixed in the future. Some of them I don't think will be fixed. Some of them definitely can't be fixed. But let's just get into this. First of all, the first problem I had with this entire mode, like I noticed this the first time I played, there's a severe lack of vehicles, right? This is an open world game we're talking about, and there's maybe 4 or 5 vehicles per area at a time. That is not nearly enough. They need at least 10 to 12. Now, I'm not too sure, the development side of it. I don't know if maybe you can't have too many vehicles on the map at once. I have no idea, which that really doesn't make any sense in my mind because Fire Team, there's always a decent amount of vehicles on the map at once. So that's definitely not the case. They definitely can have more vehicles in this game. There's no reason to only have a few, especially when it's just really frustrating having to run across the map because you don't have any vehicle near you. There's also the jump pads, of course, but they're also few and far between, so I just need more ways to just traverse the map, and I think it could work much, much better. The vehicles also shouldn't be destroyed as easily as they are, especially because there's not many of them, and there should be a way to repair them. So this is a thing I hope they add, which I don't think they will, but I think this would be really cool if we can customize the vehicles in the game. So of course you can add war tracks and paint on your vehicles outside of the game, but I'm talking about in the game. How cool would it be if they had a garage of some sort on all the maps, and you could bring your vehicle to this specific garage and buy a bunch of upgrades for it? You can buy speed boosters, you can buy like chainsaws coming out the front, like think of the sedan or something. Imagine you can buy like saws coming out the front, or like a snowplow type thing in the front of it, so you can just slide through zombies so much easier. You can buy armor upgrades for the vehicles. How awesome would that be? How much more fun would it be to go around the map with vehicles if you can buy upgrades for it at a sort of maybe like a garage station? They could have one for each map. Maybe they only need one in each map. I think that would be fine. That would be so damn cool. And yes, it would have to be a thing in game because that allows progression to be more enjoyable. If it was something that was out of the game and just in the menus and you just upgrade it from, I don't know, maybe Ethereum crystals, maybe you can buy some upgrades, then it's like that every game and you just start with the vehicle already being, decked out. I kind of enjoy it more when you progress through each match by upgrading your vehicles. Maybe in the beginning you don't have enough money for that, but once you get to like round 4, 5, or 6, you start upgrading some vehicles, and they carry over in continuous like rounds in that same match. So next time you go to that area, the vehicles already are upgraded. So every snowmobile will be upgraded. Let's say you upgrade one, every other snowmobile for your character will also be upgraded in a specific way. That would be awesome. I would love for them to focus a bit on vehicle customization, but that's just a wish I have, not necessarily a negative about the mode, but it would definitely be a thing to add some replayability to the mode, just some more fun stuff to mess around with. Next thing is probably the biggest issue I have with the mode, and it's just a lack of things to do. Again, I do expect this to get better over time, especially when they add that main quest in Season 3, but even a main quest, is that going to make that much of a difference in the entire mode? They need more just mini things to do, right? I was really excited to hop in and explore the map and see what there is to do, but then I got kind of just disappointed when I realized that the only things to do are the things that are already pointed out to you on the map, and there's maybe like 3 different things to do per map per like round. So obviously when you come back to the map later on, there'll be another couple things for you to do, but they get very repetitive and they're like the same things each time. Like there's the dragon, which you just, fill up the dragon with zombies just like you would in most other maps. It's just like a soul chest basically, and it gives you some points, sometimes some rewards. That's about it. There's one like golden chest that you have to go up to, and then you have to kill a couple zombies and the chest opens and you get some cool stuff out of it. There's of course the boss fights, sort of, not really a boss fight, but kind of a boss fight type thing where it calls in a boss. That's probably the coolest one out of all of them. I enjoy doing those the most, and you take them out and they usually give you some sort of, you get some essence and you get some, usually some loot or something, and they're fun. And then of course there's the main objective, which is always one of them for each area, and you do the main objective and then it lets you go to the next area after you do the main objective. That is all there really is to do, though. You could go buy perks, you can go pack a punch. There's sometimes those little things that you shoot to give you some more essence, but that's really it, though. There's not things you can do. And you might be like, oh well, you must be Einstein, what's your bright ideas? I have a lot of ideas. I've been thinking about this. There's a millions of different things they could do. I have some ideas right off the bat right here, what they can put into the map. Obviously, things you're going to do on the map should probably reward you with something, so they should all be something that obviously rewards you. They need to take inspiration from games like Dead Rising 3 and Dying Light. Those are like the best examples in my opinion. So my first option of something to do are mini games such as like the ones that we've seen in these other games, where you take a vehicle and you have to drive it to certain locations in a certain amount of time. So like there's a beacon or something, you start at one beacon, it tells you, okay, you gotta go to the next beacon within the next 10 seconds and you have to get there in 10 seconds. Then it tells you to another beacon and just forces you to drive around the map and get to these beacons, and maybe it takes you around the whole map, and then boom, you finish, you get some essence. That's one example of mini game. Another mini game could be maybe like a target practice thing. Maybe there's an area on the map where you go up to it and you hold X and it pops a bunch of targets out, kind of like the buried step where you have to show the targets. You have to do that same thing, and if you complete it, you get a reward. It might be a gold gun, it might be a purple gun, it might be, I don't know, a free perk or something. Just any sort of reward just to make it more worth doing. I think points would be probably the best thing to get rewarded, but still would be fun to get rewarded something. So you just keep doing stuff like that. You can have a mini game of throwing grenades into like specific like goal posts, or maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a basketball hoop somewhere on one of the maps. I don't think there is, but something small like that, you just throw it in there, you get some points. Or maybe there's just like buckets or something and you have to like, get the right grenade tosses or something. Maybe like, remember from COD 2 when you have to throw potatoes in the beginning campaign mission? Something like that, where they give you potatoes and you have to throw potatoes at something and you get points for throwing potatoes at something. Why the hell not? You can give us arcade machines. There's literally arcade machines already in the campaign. Why not give them to us? Just throw them in the maps somewhere. Maybe you can play them and earn some essence from just playing arcade machines. Why the hell not do that as well? And have some more stuff like from State of Decay. There's these things called, I believe they're like infestations or something, and some places are infested with zombies. So maybe they can have some areas in the map that are really heavily handled with zombies. Like there's tons of zombies. Maybe there's like a house or something in one of the maps, and this house is just full of zombies, and your goal is to just take it out. You have to clear out all the zombies out of the house and clear it, and when you clear it, you get some essence, you get some rewards, and there's some rewards in the house. They also just add some more stuff to find on the map. I feel like there's not that many chests, and usually the chests aren't giving you that much good stuff anyways, because the loot you can get really anywhere. You can go hit the mystery box, get the best gun in the game from the mystery box. You get your perks all from the Wonder Fizz. I don't know why they have the Wonder Fizz and no perks around the map. They should have perk machines around the map as well, just to add some more stuff on the map too. And you usually get your free perks from doing a lot of the objectives anyways, so it's not like you really need to bother buying them most of the time anyways, unless you want to get your specific jug and maybe like quick revive or something like that. There should just be more hidden things to find. Take a page out of Dead Ops Arcade 3. Remember the Wild from Dead Ops Arcade 3? One of the coolest features in that mode, how you can go around and find all these little hidden things, and you find these hidden rooms that lead you to different boss fights and lead you to different objectives. There's so much in Dead Ops Arcade 3 that you can mess around with. Why not give us the same here? And that's another big thing I'm going to say. Boss fights. Now I know they have those mini boss fights, but they're just against other bosses we've already seen on the map. Those don't really count as boss fights to me, and they're not hard to do either. You can kill them within a few seconds. A boss fight would be like the Orta boss fight from Firebase C, which was, I still didn't like the boss fight that much, but it was still at least a boss fight. And you might be like, well, Fusion, you have to realize they're just one studio. They don't have the time to make a bunch of new bosses just to make a boss fight work, which I understand. I understand that, but they don't have to. They have a bunch of assets already been used in the game in Dead Ups Arcade 3 that they can use. And I know they're not going to do it because of story, but we'll talk about this later. I don't think the story should be in this mode at all. I really don't. And I'll get to that in a minute. But even if they wanted to keep it story related, just take literally any boss already on the map and just make it more deadly. Just make it more deadly. Take a Megaton. They've already kind of done that with the Mayak Megaton, the red version, but just make him bigger. Make him huge. I don't know. Make him like triple the size. Make him like the size of like, I don't know, like bigger than the Hulk even. I don't know. Really big. Just make him huge, right? And you have to take him on. Now that would be a boss fight. Or do the same with the Mimic, but make the Mimic have like more limbs coming out of him so he looks like almost like he's like tainted by the dark ether and he's got like other things growing out of him. Make him a little bit more terrifying than the normal Mimic that we have. Or maybe take, I don't know, the Mangler, but give him a death machine for an arm instead so he's more threatening and he lights you up with a death machine. You have to actually get to cover because he's actually shooting at you. This doesn't require them to make completely new assets. All they have to do is take existing assets and modify them a little bit to make them different and unique and harder so they're actual fun boss fights. And these boss fights should just be around the map everywhere. You find a little factory room or something and you open it up, it should be like, oh shit, now I'm in a boss fight and I have to do it. It locks you in there and you're stuck, forced to do a boss fight. Or maybe not forced, maybe you can just leave, I don't know, but it gives you a good reward if you do it, so you kind of want to do it. As I was saying before though, it should have been more sandboxed focused, and I'm kind of disappointed that they made it connected to the story. I like the story, I think it's great and all, but I think we need a mode where they just don't care about the story. The only mode we have for that is Dead Ups Arcade 3, where it's very separate and it's its own thing, so it's allowed to kind of do whatever it wants. It can bring back bosses from whatever they want. But if they made this more sandbox-like, the possibilities would be endless. They would be endless. They can take the 9 gladiators that are in Dead Ups Arcade 3 already. I'm sure they could have ported them over, not that difficultly. I'm sure it wouldn't be that hard to just port those bosses over. I'm not a game developer. I don't know, but I'm assuming it's not that tricky. It would take maybe some time, but it could definitely be done. There's a lot of other bosses. You can bring the goddamn mama back if you wanted from Dead Ups Arcade 3, have them be in a boss fight. This should have been more sandbox-like is my point, and it's really not. It's an attempt at being sandbox, but it's still trying to be serious because it's still within the zombies storyline. Therefore, they're not going to go too crazy with it. They're going to keep it under the realms of the story. I was hoping it would just go wild. Imagine they took stuff, again, I don't know how easy it is to port wonder weapons from like other CODs, and I'm sure it would take some time and some development, resources, but Black Ops 4 wonder weapons or Black Ops 3 wonder weapons, you can have a Thunder Gun, you can have the Wonder Waff, all put into this mode as a sandbox-like experience, and I think it would have been the best thing ever, like easily. There would have been no competition. This would have been perfect, but they didn't take that extra step, which is I think why I'm a little disappointed, but again, I'm glad I got this in the first place. That's why I'm not trying to be too hard on it. These are just ideas throwing out there, trying to make the mode as good as it possibly can be. Another thing is there needs to be more zombies on the map at a time and just more bosses in general. They usually don't start spawning until you're like really close to them in certain areas, but sometimes you'll be walking through the map and there really won't be many zombies coming at you. What I think would be really cool is if they had a feature where herds would come through. Like you'd see a bunch of zombies. I'm talking like 30 to 40. I'm not sure how many they can handle at once on these maps, on these systems. I'm not sure how the engine can work with that. But imagine you come across and you see 40 zombies walking down and they don't come at you right away. I've noticed that they don't. They only come at you if you start shooting. So how cool would that be if they would just walk right past you? You can hide or you can fight. Maybe they're really dangerous. Maybe you don't have much ammo, and if you start shooting, they're gonna come running at you, and you're like, screw that. So you can hide or you can fight. You can decide based on where the herd is. Maybe you can come across 3 manglers just chilling at you, and they're scary looking manglers. You might not want to fight them because they're right there. But I don't see bosses as much as I kind of wish I did, or not bosses, but zombies in general, enemies in general. I don't see them as much on the map as I kind of wish I did. Kind of like Dying Light, where you would see literal herds of zombies out and about in the fields. That would be awesome. And I think the last thing I want to say is that there definitely is a lack of in-game progression. And what I mean by this is a problem that every zombies map has had, really. This isn't even specific to Outbreak, but it feels more problematic in Outbreak than it does in other modes. you feel like you have the best stuff by like round 6 or 7. Like you have your fully papped out wonder weapon and ray gun and usually like an AR or something by like round 6. You have all your perks. Usually it's not that hard to get all the perks in this game. You usually have full armor. You might maybe have a score streak or something. Once you have all that, there's nothing else to get. Now a lot of other games have had that same problem, so this isn't specific to Outbreak, but I kind of wish they just had more stuff to progress for. And I think I was speaking about that before with the vehicle upgrades. I honestly would not mind if they had more upgrades for even just, you know, the Pack-a-Punch. Imagine having tier 5 Pack-a-Punch, but that's a problem for Cold War Zombies as a whole, not even just this mode. But I feel like it's more apparent in this mode because you get a lot of points really quickly once you get to like wave 6 or 7. Once you're in the early stages, it's really hard to get points, but once you get later on, you get points like there's no tomorrow, and you basically get everything you need really quickly. But yes, that's all I really have to say about Outbreak. Again, I expect this mode to get much better as Easter eggs are added as we get new maps as well, but currently it kind of just feels like survival maps from like Tortured Path from World War II, where there's an objective mode to it, but then there's also the survival aspect to it as well. But it just feels like it's expanded to make the map a little bit bigger, but it still feels small because there's not much to do on it. Like it's just being bigger just artificially almost, you know? But not having a lot on it doesn't really make it actually feel big as a whole. I think if they add more content to these maps, they add more objectives, they add more just mini games in general, it could be a lot better. Now, I think the things I was saying before about the boss fights and all the bosses from Dead Ops Arcade and all that, that's far-fetched and they're definitely not going to do. It's just what I was hoping they would do instead. But definitely the mini games and all that type of stuff is stuff they can definitely do and definitely add in the future. So let me know your thoughts on Outbreak in the comment section below. I definitely enjoy it. I think it's definitely a fun mode that I will continue to play. I don't expect it to be very replayable over time though because of these concerns I have with it. But again, if they continuously update it later on, it could be pretty fun. So I give it a, you know, like a B- or something like that. I don't know. Hopefully you all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.